This just in, ladies and gentlemen, Steven Spielberg with his anti-Christian screed. Well, he has the need to defend all that money they spent on this movie, and it's a flop, it's a failure. Let's go there now, ladies and gentlemen. What do we got? Well, take a look at this from Cinema Tweets. Ooh, they're in full-blown defense mode. Here we go. Steven Spielberg needed only 4 days for Disclosure Day to pass $100 million at the worldwide box office, making Spielberg's latest film the fastest original film of the decade to hit $100 million. Say what? Oh, I see. So Spielberg's original film, it's not a franchise, I gotcha. It's an original film. Fastest in the decade to hit $100 million. Sure it is. I have one question. Where are the haters, doubters at now? Reveal yourselves. Don't you ever, under any circumstances, question Spielberg. You know, I hate it that RMB is retweeting this. Come on, RMB. You've been on the channel. You know better. Folks, let's break it down. It's easy math. Here we go. Out of the numbers. Disclosure Day has made $104 million. By the way, it's been out, a week now? $104 million at the worldwide box office. Yay, Spielberg. What does it need to break even? Okay? $100 million, and it's going to get wiped out by Toy Story and the rest of the stuff. I mean, you know, if it has legs, let's look down here, right? We're at 1.22 legs. Let's say it gets to 2.5 legs. I don't think it will, because I don't think it's a good movie. It's a horrible movie, in fact. Okay, but if it gets 2 times legs, what's it going to be at? 200 million, 250, somewhere around there. So what does it need to break even? What does it need to be a success for Spielberg, who's had a horrible time at the box office lately, and frankly, some are saying he needs to hang it up? Well, Variety actually tells the truth here. They never give us this info. They never do this, but they're doing it. And this is a big deal. Rebecca Rubin says box office Disclosure Day launches to $93 million globally. And Michael nears 950. Now, here's where we get some stuff that they don't typically say, and we're so happy they did. Steven Spielberg's alien conspiracy theory, Disclosure Day, collected a leading $48.9 million from 73 territories in its international box office debut. Overseas audiences will be key in the theatrical longevity of Disclosure Day, which Universal spent, here we go, $150 million to produce. That's not the budget, that's the spend. Hey, we like that. You know what, trades? You could tell us that every single time, and myself and Valiant Renegade and Fake Wizard and Jonas and the rest of us, we wouldn't have to investigate this stuff. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice if we didn't have to dig into the tax records? If Forbes didn't have to do that, just tell us the number. Okay, they spent $115 and they spent $80 million to market. They never tell this. They never, ever say the amount to market, but they're doing it, okay? They're doing it. Now, here's the deal. I don't want to hear one more time in the comments from trolls, right? And we love our trolls, by the way. Maybe just Wilson, but I don't ever hear again, bro, they're not spending $100 million on a Pixar movie. They're not spending that to market it. You're just making this up. They spent $80 million on Disclosure Day to market it. Did you see a Super Bowl ad for Disclosure Day? Did you see a worldwide tour? No, you didn't. They didn't do anything. They didn't do jack squat to market this. And it cost them $80 million. So I don't want to hear any more complaints when I say it cost $100 million or $150 for a Pixar film. You all, come on now. You know better now. All right, so let's just do easy math. Easy math says there's going to be $200 million, okay? Because somebody overspent somewhere. I don't want to do 195. You don't want to do 195. Let's just call it 200 for easy math. Please. Okay, good. Says since about half of the revenues go to theater owners. Oh my gosh, they're telling everything. The stuff that we say, they're telling it now. Since about half of revenues go to theater owners and taxes. The movie needs to generate roughly $300 million globally to justify its price tag. Now, wait a minute. Hold on. 200 million. Double that is 400 million. So why does the trade say 300 million to just, because they know it's not going to break even. Oh, I see. Folks, do you get that? Okay. You want to do the 195? You want to go back to that? Fine. I can do that math, right? 195 plus 195. What is it? 390? That's right. 390 is what it needs to break even. According to Variety, 390. But if it gets 300, that will justify it. It won't break even, but it'll justify it. Why? Because somebody at Universal maybe told them, if we get that amount, well, okay, this anti-Christian film will make the money back on the rentals or the PVODs or on the streaming deals we got. Folks, the bottom line here is, this is full-blown This is the admittal. There is no way on God's green earth, I don't care if Spielberg believes in God's green earth or not, there's no way Disclosure Day, the anti-Christian, anti-Jewish film that's supposed to make you doubt your faith, is going to make its way to break even. And they're telling you that. And they're switching language to justify. Let's go to the panel now and see what their thoughts are on this horrible mistake from Spielberg.
Something came to mind watching that wonderful presentation. The problem with being Steven Spielberg is nobody's going to tell you no. In other words, if he came to them and said, listen, here's my idea for my next movie, and I want X million dollars to make it, and that means it's going to have to bring in X million dollars to break even, and somebody with a cooler head said, I don't think this idea is going to bring that in, Steve, they don't say no to him. They can't say no to him. And so that's a terrible thing. That's a terrible thing. You see what I mean? He has such status that whatever he says, they're going to say yes, whether they believe it or not.
Well, and you would think because he has the cachet to basically say, I want to make another movie, that somebody will hand him money, which is what Clint Eastwood does was doing every once in a while. He'd come in with his own idea and put most of the money in his pocket and make a brilliant film that made the studio a bunch of money. So they didn't mind handing him a pile of money to do that. Spielberg doesn't have that recent history that, even Clint Eastwood did with his last film. So you're right. Nobody's going to tell him no, but they're
hoping he'll have a hit to go out on, just like people were hoping KK would have a hit to go out on, but it ain't necessarily so.
But they're trading on his name is what I think it is. And that's why, sure. That's why I think that the bar is set so low for him.
Well, Emily Blunt is a wonderful actress, but she never opened a picture.
No.
And opening a picture is a term of art in the biz, meaning your name carries it to success.
Yes.
She's not selling tickets.
Who
else is in it?
Which is why, the guy was a little flat, the co-star. But I'll just say the same can be said or is true for The Rock. A lot of people get mad at me for saying that. And look, that's great. But the name on the nameplate is Spielberg. It's none of these other people that were in this film, including Colin Firth, who I think is a brilliant actor.
Wonderful. But, as much as I'm sure I haven't seen the film and I'm sure he's able to do it, we don't like him as a bad guy. We like him as a noble, good guy. That's what his role has been in everything he's ever been successful at, as far as I know. So it's like, I know, I have a novel idea. We'll put the good guy in as the bad guy. It's a novel idea, but that doesn't mean it works or draws people into the theater.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Plus, they made him look funny, so if you saw the trailer with his face in it, you might not even recognize him. So
Right.
Well, before I weigh in, I want to bring in another panelist who's joined us backstage. Derek, how are you doing?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
The Rant Master.
You, DA, I love you, man, but you're the only person that liked this movie.
I am the only person that likes this movie. But I also admit to being an unapologetic Spielberg homer. And so there's just certain things that Spielberg does. Every time he does it, it just, warms the heart. When I hear that John Williams score and I see some of those classic camera angles of Spielberg, it just takes me back to 11 years old, sitting in the theater watching Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. It does it every time. I don't know. He just gets me. All right. He gets me. He's my favorite director. I wanted to be Spielberg when I grew up when I was a kid. And so that's it, but I admit this movie has zero story, and the story they do try to paint doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. But again, enough of those Spielbergisms. I don't even know what that is, but that's what wins me over every single time I watch a Spielberg movie. He gets me every time. So I had a
style, not the content.
It's style over substance 100% with Spielberg for me, but I recognize that this is not one of his better efforts. Not even close. But I still enjoyed myself in the theater. Then I'll probably go back and watch it again and, see if I can find anything else that I can possibly like about it.
Just report back to me whether or not anybody's hair in that theater isn't gray or bald.
Oh, man, look, everybody that was in the theater with me was me with gray hair
Gray
and
everywhere.
like in
I
their
know.
50s.
I know. You and I look at stuff like that. It's like, yeah, everybody in here is my age.
Right.
Which means you're just about eligible for Cocoon. But there are two of us on the panel who have not seen the movie, and obviously two of us that have. And I've got a follow-up question to this, which is that we opened this by saying that nobody is going to say no to Spielberg. But Spielberg now has a number of movies that have underperformed under his belt. And just for the sake of argument, let's say that this movie doesn't even get to the period of justifying itself as defined in that article. At that point, does the studio start saying no?
Well,
I think
now he's going to be
Spielberg
80
might
in December.
That's where I was going with it. Yep.
So will he even be asking them to say yes to anything after this? I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope he has a great idea, and I hope he makes it, and I hope it's great. But
I think Spielberg's like Clint. I think he's going to keep making movies until he drops, because that is, I mean, look at the Fabelmans. You know, that is sort of a.
Do I have to again?
Well, what I'm saying is it's sort of outlining how his life is all about the movies, and I don't think that he would feel like he was still living if he wasn't making them.
Well, yeah, it does seem like a filmmaker that just wants to go out on his shield. He's just going to keep making films, even if he's making bombs. And I mean, who am I to begrudge the greatest filmmaker of all time that privilege? I mean, he's given us some amazing films. Who am I to say, nah, Spielberg, I think you should retire and go away? I'm like, he's kind of earned whatever he wants to do at this stage of his career.
Well,
I mean,
he doesn't have to go away to stop doing them himself. He could be mentoring other people. He could be producing other people. He could do a lot of things besides personally finding a project that he falls in love with, as apparently he did with this. And, you know, cooler heads might have prevailed and said, yeah, but I don't know.
I mean, he definitely needed another screenwriter. I think that's the major problem.
Well, speaking of age, how old is he now, Cop?
David Cap, I don't even know. Yeah, he's getting up there.
And look, I always want to give Spielberg the benefit of the doubt. It's going to be harder and harder for me because my last experience outside of the Fabelmans was West Side Story, which was also equally bad. So, and gave us the most unqualified actress in the history of the planet, in Rachel Zegler. So I'm trying to figure out a nicer way to say that, but I can't. So I look at his, you know, the things that we enjoyed when we were younger, when we were growing up, when he was basically rewriting the way to make movies, along with a few other directors and creators at the time. And I think it's better if he does what Lou suggests and does kind of mentor somebody or bring somebody into his way of filmmaking, because as you pointed out, Derek, it's stylistic. It's a very great way to look at things. His cinematography eye is something that the audience really appreciates. It brings them in. It makes them feel included in it. And I mean, we all want to be immersed in an experience, and he's really good at doing that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And apparently, again, I haven't seen it, but apparently, what they should have said with this one is, we're going to need a bigger plot. That
actually leads to my next question, which is that obviously Spielberg is a veteran director. He's a powerhouse. He has been for decades now. I don't think anybody's going to be able to tell him to stop. But at this stage in his career, how do you think he's going to be digesting the reaction to this film after having a couple that also underperformed? Do you think that will lead him to be introspective and maybe trying to figure out where he's lost his mojo, or does it just roll off his back?
Well, now, the question becomes, when he did West Side Story, that was basically saying, rather than do something original, I'm going to remake a classic, which was a mistake even without Rachel, because that is a classic, and leave it alone. But now it's like, well, when I do my own thing, which, you know, some people could say it's the next chapter in the Close Encounters E.T. saga, but still, if you can't do remakes and you can't do originals and you haven't got a story, I don't know what you're doing it for, other than, because you can.
I hope that he's being a little more introspective than that. And knowing Spielberg, I expect he probably is. I think he is a guy who loves to tell a story. I do wonder if he's leaning a little too heavily on Kep. Kep was also the screenwriter on Indy 4, and he has a tendency to be a little weak.
The question is going to be, who's he going to blame? If he comes out like so many people have lately who make flops and says, well, the damn audience was too stupid to get it, he's going to alienate everybody and that'll be the end. If he's smart enough to say, I thought it was a good idea, maybe it wasn't, and go on from there, he's got a shot. Well,
and again, I mean, he's done pretty well with 2 Alien movies. He did really badly with the next 2 because Crystal Skull is an Alien movie. Yeah. So, and then Disclosure Day, in my opinion, I not to minimize Derek's opinion at all, because I know he really loved it, but maybe it's Kep, but what was weird is he went on every single podcast he went on, I would say, had a particular political leaning to promote this film. And at the same time, he started to redirect blame to George Lucas on Crystal Skull. Which isn't true, because as you pointed out, the writer is, Spielberg's partner in crime with the creative. Mm-hmm. So I feel like when you become that successful, when you're that revered, I think is the proper word, you become very isolated in your own bubble. And so, as not to dominate the conversation too much, I'll just say this. I think that he's going to be impervious to criticism, and I don't believe he'll be open to anybody telling him that this wasn't 100% a home run.
Well,
imagine you got this deep in your career, and you have been successful for, let's say, 80% of that career. You've made pretty solid movies, or you've done well, and you're known as the best of all time. Who's going to tell you you're wrong at this point in time? Who's going to tell Michael Jordan, hey, Michael Jordan, you shouldn't be on the Wizards. You need to put the basketball away, and you need to go into the front office. Who's going to tell Michael Jordan that? And if Michael Jordan hears that, is Jordan going to listen? Of course he's not going to listen. He's going to do what he wants to do because he's Michael Jordan. And I still got one more good year in me, all right? And Spielberg is probably saying, I still got one good movie left. Even if he doesn't acknowledge the negativity, in his head, he still thinks, I got one more in me. And that's the problem. We have a lot of legends that refuse to retire, and they want to go out on a high, on a win. They want to win that Super Bowl before they leave. And again, like I said, who am I to begrudge Steven Spielberg of that, privilege or that right?
The answer to the question of who's going to tell him, whether it's Michael Jordan or Steven Spielberg, is the scoreboard is going to tell you.
Yeah.
And you got to wonder, thinking about it, everything he said about this to promote it was this whole it'll make Christians question their faith thing. Why does he think that's a winner at the box office? Why does he, and why did that become, in other words, that may be what the movie's about, but let people discover it. And meanwhile, they bought a ticket to find out. But It seems to me it's a basic misread of the audience to think that's going to encourage people to go see it. What it's going to encourage people to do is say, I don't need that aggravation. I will stay home and go to church that Sunday instead of the movies.
But that sounds like a guy that's checked out from the conversation, right? He doesn't understand what's going on in the cultural conversation. So,
and regardless of one's opinion of religion or God or Jesus or anything else, if you're that far out of touch with the culture, you could make a Western and screw it up. You could make any kind of movie and screw it up, because these things are touchstones. People need to be able to see a hero they like, a villain they hate, and watch the good guys win. I mean, we all know that's what's not been happening in Hollywood, much to its financial detriment. So I just think he's so isolated to think that was going to sell the picture above everything else.
Yeah,
it's really questioning not only his judgment, but the people who put him out there to say that.
We've reached the end yet again. But ladies and gentlemen, we've had fun today, have we not? And until the next time we get to do so yet again, be a friend to the channel. Click that like button. Share your thoughts in the dialogue down below. And if you're not yet subscribed, well, we need you right here on Team Pro. Until we meet again, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.